welcome to my YouTube channel, Fantasy World. Today I'm going to be reading the book called Winterhouse, written by Ben Guterson, with illustrations by Chloe Bristol. Okay, today I'm going to be reading Chapter 8, which is called A Breakfast Game. And one way to turn the word game into the word word is game, same, some, soar, war, and word. And that is how you turn the word game into the word word. So let's get right into it. I demand to see the management about this, the man in the black said, ignoring his wife and turning back to Samson. Elizabeth gave a silent sigh. We can go to the lobby and take it up there, Samson said. The man and woman in black looked at each other and came to some silent agreement. And then the man made an impatient gesture forward with his arm. The three disappeared around the corner of the hallway, and Elizabeth closed her door. Very, very interesting place, she said to herself. Elizabeth awoke in the morning to the sound of a bell chiming in the distance. While they had been walking the night before, Norbert had told her that a bell would ring 20 minutes before breakfast began, and so Elizabeth quickly changed, brushed her teeth, and stepped out of her room to head to the dining hall with one of her school library books, The Mysterious Benedict Society, in her hand. She followed the signs that led downstairs, joining the stream of other people heading in the same direction, and finally walking along an enormous hallway lined with brightly painted murals. They depicted scenes of men climbing mountains and women cross-country skiing and people working at large machines or singing around a campfire. Underneath each mural was a brass plaque with something on it such as the ascent of Mt. Arbaza, or the rescue of the general's niece, or 5,000 boxes of foreskin delivered to the Sheikh on time. Elizabeth had never seen such huge paintings close up like this, and she told herself she would be sure to study each one carefully when she had more time, because right now everyone was busily making their way into the hall ahead. Above the doorway she was about to pass through, painted in gold and decorated with elaborate petals and curved lines, was what appeared to be a family tree. It looked like this. So this is what the family tree looked like. And the two here, the last two names are Lena Falls and Winford Falls. This is what you saw. Let's continue. Elizabeth stared at the tangle of names, pressing her book to her chest, but she hardly had a moment to take it all in before a gentle voice beside her said, "You don't want to be late, miss. Please feel free to sit anywhere you like once you get inside, but do make your way into the hall." A tall, sturdy woman wearing a white server's smock and black shirt stood beside Elizabeth. She was at least as old as Aunt Gertie, though her cheeks were a pleasant rosy red, her eyes twinkled, and she wore a narrow hat on her head that reminded Elizabeth of the kind she'd once seen on a man serving ice cream at the drugstore in Smelterville. That was the only time Aunt Gertie had allowed Elizabeth to share an extra small cup of ice cream with her and Uncle Burlap. "I'm Mrs. Trumbull," the woman said, "at your service." She tapped the thin brass nameplate affixed to her smock. It seemed to Elizabeth that the woman's speaking voice and her singing voice might also be identical. She had never heard a voice quite as musical before. "Thank you," she said. "My name's Elizabeth. Yes, the puzzle expert," Mrs. Trumbull said. "We've heard all about it. You arrived last night." She tipped her head in dismissal. "But please make your way in." Then she joined the flow of people streaming ahead and disappeared. The puzzle expert, Elizabeth thought, wondering how Mrs. Trumbull had heard about the incident from the night before. She couldn't help smiling to herself as she resumed walking. When Elizabeth entered the dining hall, she found herself in the largest room she'd ever been in. Round tables rimmed with gleaming place settings, huge windows that allowed views of snow, heavy trees, and distant peaks. 100 chandeliers strung across the ceiling, and a stone fireplace at the far end that was crackling with a haystack of logs. More than this, though. The hall was packed with people, probably over 400, talking and laughing or sitting quietly and studying the morning sky through one of the tall windows. It was like when you go to a concert and the orchestra is tuning up and the audience members are finding their seats. That's how it seemed in the dining hall. That same air of readiness and excitement, as though something interesting and pleasant was about to happen, and everyone was in a good mood because of it. Elizabeth studied the table to her right. The places there were filled already by what appeared to be a single large family, 2 grandparents, 2 parents, and 4 young children, all of whom were talking and laughing with one another. She found herself wishing there had been an empty seat so that she could join them. Some chimes began to play. Elizabeth looked to another table near her that had a couple of unoccupied chairs and took a seat. As if on cue, everyone in the hall did the same, so that within 1 minute not a single person was standing. Elizabeth was glad to sit by the rear door because she had some idea it wouldn't be proper to sit too near the fireplace in front. There was a lectern up there, and a long table at which sat some important-looking men and women in black, but she didn't see them anywhere. It's looking men and women, including Norbridge Falls. Elizabeth looked around quickly to see if she could spot the man and woman in black, but she didn't see them anywhere. I like sitting in the back because then you can leave pretty easily whenever you're done eating, someone said beside her, although the seat had been empty just a moment before. Elizabeth turned to see a boy about her age, sitting with a thin laptop computer closed on the table before him. He wore brown corduroy pants and a wool shirt that seemed a size too large. He had black hair and dark brown eyes, and his glasses were even bigger and chunkier than the ones Elizabeth wore. So, if you guys hadn't pictured him, this is what he looks like, and this is Elizabeth, by the way. This is what he looks like. I just picked the nearest empty seat, Elizabeth said, a little flustered. She couldn't recall a boy ever talking to her out of the blue like this. Did you just get here? He said. I don't think I've seen you before. He lifted a hand as if waving at her across the room. My name is Freddie, by the way. My name's Elizabeth, she said. I arrived last night. She ran her eyes over the adults at the table, all of whom were talking with the people beside them, and seemed not to have noticed the 2 children. Is it your parents' table? She said quietly. No, Freddie said. They're in Europe on vacation. They've been sending me here at Christmas for 3 years now, which is fine with me. I wouldn't mind living at Winterhouse. I'm by myself too, Elizabeth said, a bit surprised to learn that this boy was in the same situation as herself. My aunt and uncle sent me here. That's who I live with in Drera. That's the small town where we reside. She used the word reside. Freddie closed his eyes and said nothing. It looked as though he was counting to himself, or had maybe forgotten something, and was trying to remember what it was. He opened his eyes. Reside, he said. You can turn it into desire if you switch the letters around. Elizabeth felt her stomach drop. You're kidding me. No, seriously, you can't. I know, she said in amazement. I mean, you do anagrams too? All the time. My mind just sort of starts doing them automatically. Do you know you can turn Santa Claus into casual ants? Freddie said. Sure, I know that one. How about astronomers into moon starers? Elizabeth laughed, partly because she was amused and partly because she was stunned to meet someone else who liked anagrams. My full name is Elizabeth Somers, she said, and the best anagram I've ever made out of it is Heartless Zombie. Now it was Freddie's turn to laugh. That's better than mine. My full name is Frederick Knox, which turns into Dork Neck Fixer. That's a good one, Elizabeth said. I do them all the time. The letters just start to rearrange themselves on their own. I read The Secret Garden once and I mentally turned garden into danger. The secret danger, Freddie said. I like that. He closed his eyes again and then popped them open after 3 seconds. It can also turn into ranged, he said. Elizabeth sat back heavily in her seat. You are good. Freddie pointed to her book. Like to read? All the time, Elizabeth said. I love books. She pointed to his laptop. And you like computers? Freddie pushed at his glasses. Actually, the owner of the hotel has me working on a project for him, and I'm doing some research. I'm trying to figure out how we can use the walnut shells for the candy kitchen. I'll turn them into a fuel source for the people in the village nearby. You see, we could compress them and... Wait a minute, Elizabeth said, leaning forward. Are you talking about Norbridge Falls? Freddie nodded. You're working on a project for him? Elizabeth said. He's given me a new project 3 years in a row. That's incredible, Elizabeth said, genuinely impressed. I call the one I'm working on now the Walnut Wonderlog. I'm trying to figure out the right sort of adhesive to keep the shells together so that they don't burn too quickly. And then maybe there's a way to automate the whole thing. Elizabeth had never heard anyone in her class use a word like automate before. See, Freddie said, lifting his laptop and showing her its underside. There, taped securely along the bottom, was a piece of paper that looked like this. Nuts, nets, sets, seeds, fees, feel, and fuel. So those words are written like this, and like up and down, going from the up to the bottom. Nuts, nets, sets, seeds, fees, feel, and fuel. That's what I'm trying to do, he said. Change walnuts into fuel. A word ladder, Elizabeth said, raising her voice. She looked around the table to see if anyone had been disturbed, but the noise in the hall was still so great that no one seemed to have noticed her excitement. I love those too, she said. She'd once seen an article about word ladders in a magazine, how to turn head into tail, and she'd been hooked. It wasn't easy to come up with it, Freddie said. You did it in 6 steps? Elizabeth said, very impressed. My favorite is head, heel, tail, tall, tail. Head to tail. That's a good one, Freddie said, setting his laptop down. Elizabeth was thinking about the 2 words, nuts and fuel. And almost before she knew it, she blurted out, I bet I can do yours in less than 6 steps. Freddie squinted at her. Good luck. My head still hurts from working on it. She laughed lightly. So, how long have you been here? A week, Freddie said. With 3 to go. Same as me. Norbert checks in on me sometimes, but I'm pretty much on my own. A man in a red suit at the front of the hall said in a loud voice, Breakfast is served! And a line of waiters brought out steaming serving plates of scrambled eggs, sliced ham, jelly-filled crepes, and chocolate chip pancakes. Everyone in the hall settled in to eat. I could show you around the hotel later, if you like, Freddie said as their plates arrived, but it would have to be after lunch. I have some stuff to do on my project this morning. That would be great, Elizabeth said, as glad as she was to have met Freddie, and as eager as she was to explore Winterhouse. She had been planning to visit the library when it opened. I was going to check out the library this morning anyway. Good plan, Freddie said. He took a huge bite of his pancakes and began chewing away. If you like libraries, you'll love the one here. You've never seen anything like it. Well, that is the end of chapter 8. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please hit that like button and that subscribe button. And don't forget the notification bell down below to see more videos like this. Thank you. Bye.